This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Indiana introducing an author of Open Door Romantic Suspense, a creator of fabulous fiction and scribe of stories for all ages. I'm joined here with MG Lorraine. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Glad to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm going to start off a little bit back in your past. I mean, your childhood was marked by unique experiences, from being born in Germany during a time of European tension to growing up in the view of the beautiful Rocky Mountains.
Yep.
Did this distinct atmosphere and really history of these early environments, would you say they influenced your imagination and maybe provided you a passion for storytelling and writing? Tell me a little bit about your past.
Storytelling has always been part of what I've done. Even when I was a kid, I always had stories going. When I started getting older, didn't matter what I was doing professionally, I've always written. I've written curriculum when I was in a different occupation. I've written just about anything you can imagine, newsletters, all kinds of stuff. But during that entire time, I have had characters that develop, and I think about them and they come with storylines and they become bits of books, and I just stick them. Sometimes I've written, 200 pages of something and stuffed it in a closet because life called. And I've just always written. I always have this long line of characters and stories that I've developed, and life would get busy and I'd throw them back in the closet, and they're just in a pile in the closet. And finally it's time to pull them out and bring them to life.
I mean, so really in your professional career, I imagine your mind was always working. I mean, you found success in diverse fields, the financial industry, technology, and even education. How has your professional experiences influenced your approach to writing, publishing, and now launching your career as a novelist?
It gives me depth of what I'm writing about. When I go to write about dark web, I have experience there. I know more about what I'm talking about. So when I go to talk to other people, maybe as source material, it gives me a different depth. When I talk about financial crimes, or I talk about education, or I talk about a lot of other things, because I've got this huge diversity of background, it makes coming up with the baseline of what I'm talking about easier. And I think it's more interesting for my reader because I can write from a perspective of what I know. I'm not interviewing somebody and pulling that storyline in. I actually know what that is. And it also shows up in my characters sometimes because my friends will go, "Oh, we know where that came from."
I mean, so obviously, you're writing from some experiences that makes it even more in depth for the reader to enjoy. You say that you put aside stories for 30 years. I mean, a lifetime of writing pushed into the closet. What finally prompted you to open that closet and prioritize publishing your work now after a successful professional and family life?
Time. I got our last one married, and he has a family of his own, and I have no kids running around the house, and my husband and I'm working in estates and trusts, and my business is doing what I needed it to do. And I have a longtime assistant who one day I pulled one of them out of the closet, and I'd been thinking about it and I was working on it, and I handed her about 3/4 of it and said, "Here, you were looking for something to read. Why don't you tell me what you think about this?" And she came in the following morning and said, "Where's the rest of it?" And I said, I haven't written it yet. And she goes, "Why not?" And I said, I probably deleted it. So there's a rule now about I'm not allowed to delete anything. But because I've probably deleted as many books as I've kept.
This assistant uncovered a few gems here and realized, hey, we should do something about this. So those around you were probably surprised to learn that you had an extensive development for over 50 works. How did you manage such a massive volume of ideas and characters? And what was your process for deciding which story to bring forward first?
The one I was working on. Carol said, she's been my assistant forever, and she's always edited everything I've written since she became my administrative assistant. And so it seemed normal and just method wise, it was perfect for her to say, okay, well, and she just started editing. And she's come to find out she's one of the best storyline editors I've ever seen. But I write it. I have a little gal who comes in and types it exactly as I write it, because I write in longhand, notebook and purple ink, same all the time, always has been. Don't know why. It's just how it comes out. And then little gal comes in, she types it exactly as I've written it. No changes, no nothing, just exactly as I've written it. I go back through it and tidy it up a little. And then I literally print it out and hand it to Carol, and she starts through it. And then the questions. Where did this character come from? How did this go? You can't call this guy this. You called that guy this. I mean, just the stuff. And we'll do this back and forth as we clean up the work 6 or 7 times. Every time I get done with it, I may get rid of a chapter. I may add 3 chapters. She never knows what she's going to get on the next read. I hand it back to her, and she goes back through it with blue marker. And then I take it back and I go back to work on the questions and the changes. And I mean, she's brutal. Sometimes she'll go, I'm so sorry. This character can't be here unless you give her a storyline. And I go, but she has one. She goes, well, you forgot to tell the reader. You should get on that. So she's great. And then when we got it to a certain place with Fossils, she said, it's time to see about a publisher.
I mean, let me explain this process. You've got a little cottage industry going on in one room, from the purple ink all the way to the final submission. You've got a team looking at it multiple times. So let's talk about Fossils. This is your first published fiction novel leading the Dorchester Sisters series.
Right.
What inspired this specific series?
Don't laugh. I was looking at a riverbed and thought, oh, I bet there's dinosaurs there. And off jumped the book. That's how my brain works. I can be looking at whatever, and there it is. And as I was writing the book, because I know it sounds crazy, but I literally have no idea what's coming out until it comes out of my head and it's on the paper. And people are like, don't you outline? No, it's not how my brain works. Story develops, I write it, then we go back and it fills in. And I literally have an entire book on a dinner napkin because something caught my eye. This story was there. And I have a paper napkin in this closet that has an entire book on it.
Wow. I mean, so we're talking an idea that came from a riverbed.
Yeah.
And here I thought maybe you had a background in dinosaurs or something.
I like
Your
them,
novel
but
merges the specific scientific world of a dinosaur dig with the high stakes world of a romantic suspense. What research, or if any, took place to make Kalia's excavation site and this fossil theft maybe feel authentic?
Oh, tons. Once I knew where the story was going and I outlined the story, then I wrote the first draft of it, then I had to go back and figure out, okay, well, where specifically are we? Well, my head knew we were in Nebraska. So then I had to go figure out where the plates were and where the cliff lines were and what could possibly be there and what hadn't been discovered there, and tons. And, then as Quentin develops and you see him come into the forefront and you see him come to help, then, his whole side develops, and that brings forth the rest of her family. And so it just grows like it grows. And I don't write in a normal way, which we're working on. Antiquities is almost done now, the second in the book, and it's totally different. It's mostly Egyptian. It's the older sister. It's a totally different place. She's a lawyer. It's a totally different book. And the third one I'm writing is Sabrina's a fashion journalist.
You are probably just as surprised as many of the readers of what comes out of some of these stories. I mean, what comes out of your head, you have to be very surprised yourself and say, how did this come together? So the tension between Kalia and Quentin, who is an old family friend, stems from deep-rooted, unsettled business. Can you kind of touch on the nature of this complex history and how their need to trust each other professionally may be conflicts with their complicated personal feelings?
Well, the book opens with a theft. Somebody's stolen the best of this find, and it's had to be somebody close. And her dad is a securities expert, and her family, Kylea, Sabrina, and Jennifer's family has been the Dorchesters have been family friends of the Palmers, which is Quentin and Matt, his younger brother, and their family have been family friends for their whole lives since Kylea was in second grade, I think. And so she and Quentin, he's a year older, had always been friends because their families were so closely knit. But as he got older and into high school, he was a jock and he was a jerk. And she is terrified about how he was going to ruin his life because somebody, one of his arm candy, was going to decide that he had a future. And so she starts nagging. And she's nagging and nagging and nagging and nagging. And everybody who knew her was nagging. And he knew she was nagging. And the opening chapter starts when they're getting ready for a high school dance, and she's teaching him, really good moves for the dance. And he decides to kiss her, and she gives him a black eye. And that's where the book starts. But then you're now in modern day, and who does her dad send to get her out of trouble but Quentin, who, over the years has gotten his cred together and he's in great shape. But the problem is, he's still a jerk. And,
Yeah.
she's over it. And who's her dad send to get her out of trouble and help her figure out who stole her stuff? In the meantime, she's got somebody who's murdering people on her dig site.
I mean, the jerk with some arm candy on his arm there. That's definitely a story that'll catch people's attention right off the bat. I mean, Kylea is described as fighting an unexpected battle to protect her heart, while also executing a secret plan to recover her fossils. Does this secret plan kind of reveal anything about her character, would you say? And how does Quentin's unexpected intervention kind of complicate her determination and maybe even put her at greater risk?
Well, she's her own woman. And although he's typical alpha, he thinks he knows better. She's got her own plan going on. And so there comes a place in the book where she's got another dead person that's on her dig site, and more of her stuff has been stolen, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do. And she already had a plan in place. And when she explains to everyone that she had a plan and they're on the wrong track, Quentin realizes that she's put herself in real danger, and not a little, that she could be the next one dead. And so then there's this tug of war about, they have feelings starting to brew, and she's trying to figure out that who he is now isn't who he was then. And he's always known that, she might be his forever person, but, she won't get near him. And so there's this whole tug of war going on. At the same time, he's trying to see to it that she's not the next on the list of murdered. And her dad has expectations of him. He trained him, even though he has his own business. And she knows that Dorchester sister family dynamics are their own set of intrigues. And, there's a set of rules that go with them too. And it's an interesting, they're complicated. The Dorchester sisters are complicated. None of them are easy. All of them are tough. All of them are really good at what they do. And they all pick really interesting men in the end.
Yeah, and they're getting teamed up with some of these alpha males, and yet they are very strong in themselves. That makes for a story within itself. I mean, you really had to balance the scientific detail with the urgent pace of a thriller. Was that kind of a challenge? And what do you hope the reader will walk away with after reading your book?
I hope that I always ask when somebody's read it, when did you figure out who the murderer was? Because I want to know if I kept you clear down here, or if you knew in chapter 2, then it wasn't a very good murder mystery. And so I hope that they love the characters, that they're willing to come to Jennifer's story in Antiquities because they loved the journey. But more importantly, I hope that they feel that the story honored the time that they gifted me as a reader, because there's a ton of stuff. my understanding is about 80,000 books published last year. There's lots to read. If you have honored me by giving me the time to sit and read the work, then I hope that I have honored you with the story that made you feel like you didn't waste the time, that you came into the room to visit with us, and that I gifted you a mind-blowing, great story that when you left, you're like, wow, I could do that again.
That's excellent. That is excellent. Like you say, there's many books to read out there. So obviously in honor, you love getting close to your readers for that reason, just understanding and seeing where they've come from after they've read it. MG, you have published everything from poetry and political columns to educational curriculum. I mean, how do these varied forms of writing maybe provide a unique perspective to your fiction? Like you said, it gives you some real depth. But I also imagine that you have so many writings going on. Is it hard to keep them all in track?
If I didn't have the friends that have joined me as a team, if I didn't have them, it would be more difficult. Carol sees to it that she has a series of rules. I'm not allowed to write X amount of things in too many of this or that, because then I lose pace of where I am. But I have a kids series that we're under contract for that I've written with a niece and nephew. And we have 5 books under contract for it. And it's early readers. So those are going to be fun. They should be out before Christmas. Probably we're struggling to get our art done on time.
Speaking of those, because I think we'll probably meet again to talk about those, beyond adult romantic suspense, you're planning to release books for young readers. Youth adventure, and even teen romance. Why the decision to write for these different age groups and genres, and how do you shift your creative voice kind of to suit them?
Well, the stories came up, but more importantly, one of the things I wanted to do was I have within my hub, I have these other little writers, and I want to help bring them into their own. So the nephew, the great nephew that is on my dad's side of the family, and the great niece that's on my mom's side of the family actually know each other, although they live in Kentucky and Florida. The great nephew works for my marketing and operations team member. And he kept saying, when can I read your book? And I said, right after you have hair on your chest. This is not something you get to read before then. And he goes, well, when do I get to write with you? And I'm like, I have ideas. And he's like, okay, we should talk about that. Well, so then I called in the niece, and she's a writer on her own. She'd been writing me stories for years, and they were 8 at the time. And I was driving to a client's one day and had brain space. And by the end of the day, I had 74 titles cooked up. And so I was talking to the kids, and I said, what I'd like to do is this. And they're like, oh, that would be fun. So off we went with the Grandparent Adventure series that we're getting ready to do. And then we have 5 titles of that. We have 74 titles in total. And we have a compendium series of 20 summer camp titles that would go with that. And then, and they've been really fun. I've been in board meetings my entire life, ever since my professional career. But I've never been rolled over in a board meeting till I was with 2 8-year-olds, and they decided we were changing to a different storyline one day. Their mothers were taking notes, and I could hear howling in the background when they decided the next book in the list was going to be this place they had both been. And I'm the only one who hasn't been there. And suddenly we were writing a book that wasn't on our list, didn't have anything to do with what I thought we were writing. And the title had changed. And there we were. That's book 5 of the Grandparent series now. It's a great book.
This is your way of giving back. This is way of affecting the next generation. I mean, you're the sole creator, you're the driving force, but you formed a team of friends to help you bring your work to the world. I mean, I think that's important as well. MG, you are a voracious reader and a collector of knowledge in all forms. What is your ultimate goal, or maybe even philosophy as a writer, that may be reflective of your diverse life experiences?
Well, because I love to read, if I put something out there to be read, I want it to be, like I said, I want the reader to feel like they didn't waste their time on the journey. we've all read books that when we put it down, we're like, okay, well, that was a waste of time I wouldn't spend again. Whether we're writing children's books, we're writing teen stuff, or we're writing smut and murder, I want it to always feel like that when you left the room, you came away with a great story, and that we valued your time with the work, and that you felt like you could go, oh, I would come back. I love these characters. Can I come play in this world again? Can we tell another one of those stories? If we do that, then we've honored the work.
Excellent, excellent. I think your work is going to go far. I can't believe you tucked it away for 30 plus years. It's now getting the light of day, and we were excited to really tell your story for that reason, because the fact I think you have great things coming on the horizon. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is her website, where you can learn more about this author, but also her really team of goddesses who will bring a closet of stories of 30 plus years, hopefully, to print. She loves to connect with her readers, and so sign up right there for her blogs, newsletter, and follow her everywhere on social media. Once again, that is MG Lorraine, bringing you Fossils, a Dorchester Sisters novel. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.